In this video, we are going to talk about the 4 campaign scaling methods that we can use to actually profitably scale our campaigns. So first of all, why is understanding how to scale such an important skill when it comes to Facebook ads? Well, you're going to find that as you start to scale any account, you're going to find that you'll eventually hit a point that feels a lot like a glass ceiling or this invisible wall where for whatever reason you're just not able to profitably spend more money. You'll find that the more you spend, the worse results you actually end up getting, and the worse results actually get exponentially worse the more that you try to spend. And so you're going to try and scale a campaign. Maybe you get to $500 a day and you try and scale to $550 a day, and then all of a sudden results just start to get bad. There's just this glass ceiling, and this glass ceiling appears at a different price point, or a different budget point rather, for every single account. And really where the glass ceiling resides depends on a number of factors, including the size of the audience, the type of the audience, the competition, your product, your offer. All of those things play into account, but this glass ceiling exists at every single account. Additionally, anytime you try and scale a profitable ad set, if you try and scale a profitable ad set incorrectly, it can cause the entire optimization of that ad set to reset and potentially turn a profitable ad set into a loser. So it's very important to understand how to scale properly. It's not rocket science, it's not that difficult, but it is important to understand these 4 strategies so that when you run into the glass ceiling, you have a solution and you have a workaround. So there's 4 primary strategies to scale your campaigns. Strategy number 1 is to use linear scaling. Strategy 2 is to use ad set duplication. Strategy 3 is to use additional audience scaling. And strategy 4 is to use conversion optimization scaling. And we're going to drill down into what each of those means. So the first one that we're going to tackle is linear scaling. And so linear scaling is the most straightforward, the most basic way to scale an ad set, and it involves simply increasing the daily budget of the ad set in question. That's it. And so it literally involves going into your ads manager, saying, okay, I want to increase this, so I'm going to increase this to $20 or whatever it is that I want to set. Looks like Facebook's not cooperating with me right now, so we're not going to be able to do that. We just get to look at this wheel, but that's the process. And as far as my scale up pattern, I double my daily budget until I get to $75, and then I increase by 20 to 30% every time I increase. So a typical daily budget progression could look like starting out at $5, then double to 10, then double to 20, 25, then double to 50, then go to 75, then 100, 125, 150, 200, 250, etc. You get the picture. Very, very straightforward. After I get to $100 per day budget level, I rarely increase budgets more than once every 3 days just to give the ad set time to re-optimize. And so when you're only spending like $5 to $75 a day, that's not a lot of money. You can kind of abuse your ad sets and it's not going to impact things too majorly. But once you get above about $100 a day, I start to be a lot more careful with what I do to that ad set, simply because throwing off the optimization costs a lot more when you're spending $100 a day. And so here's just a picture to implement this. You just go into that daily budget there. So the next strategy that we can use to scale our campaigns is called ad set duplication. And so one thing you're going to find that as you scale an individual ad set too high, you're going to find that performance tends to drop off past around the $300 to $500 per budget per day point for a single ad set. And so one way to get around, I don't know why that is, that's just something that tends to happen. And so one way to get around this issue is to simply duplicate the ad set. So instead of trying to scale, I don't know what's going on here, this is frustrating. Discard some of those drafts. Okay, so instead of trying to scale this to $300 per day, I could just duplicate the ad set and then scale them both to $150 per day, and potentially get around the issue that I'm seeing where if I scale this to $300 per day, my performance tanks. It's a very straightforward process. Now, this can work very effectively, but you need to monitor this very carefully, and you should never use this strategy on audience sizes that are less than 1 million in size. Frankly, the bigger the audience size, the better, due to audience overlap. And so we covered audience overlap in a previous video. But essentially, anytime you duplicate an ad set, where you're basically saying, okay, Facebook, create a duplicate ad set, you're running the risk of audience overlap. And because Facebook has to split that audience out between A and B, it impairs its ability to optimize on your behalf, which can cause results for both ad sets to actually drop. And so you just need to monitor this carefully, but this is a very easy, straightforward, and powerful scaling strategy. This is the second strategy that I try if linear scaling is not allowing me to spend as much as I want to. So let's say I scale this up to $200 a day, and then I bump it up to $250 a day, and I notice results tank. I give it a week, results are still low, so I pull it back to $200 a day, and results even back out and go back to where they were. So I decided to try and scale again, and the same thing happens. At that point, I'm probably going to duplicate the ad set and just try and scale that duplicated ad set. Started out at maybe $50 a day, and then try and scale that to get around the issue. For whatever reason, spending more than $200 a day in this ad set is causing performance to drop. So that's a very doable strategy, and it's a strategy that works a high percentage of the time. Now, as you scale your campaigns and drive more traffic to your landing pages, you can use a strategy that's called additional audience scaling. And so essentially, as you scale your campaigns, by definition, the amount of traffic that you're driving to your landing pages, the number of people who are liking your Facebook page, the number of people who are watching your videos, who are visiting your website, who are interacting with your ads, those all scale in step with the scale of your overall campaign, which allows you to build additional retargeting audiences that potentially you didn't have the traffic or just the audience size to do when you first launched your campaign. And so you can build these additional retargeting audiences based off of anything throughout your funnel. So if your funnel is let's say you have a landing page to an opt-in page to a video page to a sales page, when you launch this funnel to traffic, you probably didn't have a ton of traffic throughout this funnel, but as you scale ads, the number of people who visit your landing page increases, who visit the opt-in page increase, the video page increase, and the sales page increase, which then potentially gives you enough traffic to create lookalikes based off sales page views, lookalikes based off of landing page views, lookalikes based off this. You can create retargeting audience based off of your videos, and then you can create lookalikes based off of that. You can create retargeting audiences based off of post engagements and page engagements. And then you can create lookalikes based off of those. And so really the number of audiences that you can create scales exponentially as your campaign scales, which allows you to create additional audiences, and then you just walk through the process of testing a new audience. And that gives you a very viable way to scale your campaigns without having to further dilute or otherwise worry about audience overlap. And additionally, after you've reached some scale in your ad campaign, especially if your ad account was brand new when you started, it's worth revisiting initial audiences that you've tested and killed, simply because Facebook will have a better understanding of what you're actually trying to convert for. Your account's going to have some history. Facebook's going to understand better who to target. And so it's worth retesting old audiences that you may have killed just to see what happens, because again, there's that semi-random element anytime you run Facebook ads. And the fourth and final way to actually scale your campaign is using a strategy that I call conversion optimization scaling. And so by choosing conversion events further down the funnel, for example, choosing purchases instead of add to carts, choosing webinar attendees instead of webinar registrants, etc., not only can you optimize for a higher quality audience, but this also allows you to target previously untapped cohorts of your existing audiences. So what do I mean by that? So typically when you launch a campaign, you are going to optimize for this step right here, which is the first step of the funnel, right? Now, as you start getting more and more traffic and you start sending more traffic, more conversion events happen, you can start telling Facebook, okay, Facebook, actually I want you to try optimizing for this event or this event. Now, keep in mind that for Facebook to properly optimize for any conversion, there needs to be about 50 conversions per week. Now, I don't live and die by this number, but that's what Facebook has told us is best practice, and so this number is just worth keeping in mind. If you don't have enough traffic to hit 50 conversion events per week, then you probably shouldn't attempt to optimize for that, which is why when we're just launching a campaign, we always start at the first step of the funnel, because this step right here is always going to have more conversion events than this, and this is always going to have more conversion events than this, right? That's just the way that funnels work. And so as we up the traffic, though, we're moving more people through here, and so we very well may have 50 people moving from the opt-in to the video page, and maybe even 50 people moving from the video page to the sales page, and so we can optimize for these events. Now, not only does optimizing for these events obviously tell Facebook to optimize for a more valuable event to our sales process than way up here, we're optimizing for people who are going to at least get to this stage of the funnel, but it also does this, and that is, if we take a look back at our metaphorical audience of the United States, and then we have the constraints that we give Facebook to target people. Now, if we tell Facebook, okay, Facebook, I want you to optimize for, let's say, landing page views, right? Facebook's going to take a look at this audience and say, okay, you know what? These people here are likely to view your landing page, so we're going to target your ads to them. Now, if you change the conversion event, so if you say, okay, instead of landing page views, I want to target people who are likely to actually opt in, Facebook's going to reevaluate this audience here and say, okay, based on that, I think that these people are likely to actually opt in. And so, sure, there's a little bit of overlap there, but for the most part, changing conversion events allows you to target a different cohort of people, which allows you to scale without running into audience overlap issues that simply duplicating an ad set can get you. And so it's a very, very powerful method. However, typically it only makes sense to do this when your ad campaign is at a little bit more scale, so that you have enough data moving throughout your funnel to actually get you good results. And so I had notes there, but I was way ahead of my notes. Showed you how this all works on the whiteboard. And so, like I mentioned, Facebook has stated that the algorithm performs best when 50 conversion events are performed per week, which is why anytime we start a new campaign, we start for conversion events at the front of the funnel and work our way down as we scale, simply because we know that we need to hit that 50 conversion events per week, which is just something worth keeping in mind. But these are the four primary ad set scaling techniques that you can employ in your ad campaigns. These are very powerful. These are the four that I use on a day-to-day basis, and if you follow these four, you will be able to scale your ads to $2,000 per day plus and beyond, up to 6 figures in ad spend per month easily by following these four strategies. And when you tie these strategies in with the optimization systems that we've built out and gone over, you have an incredibly effective, incredibly profitable toolkit that you can use as a marketer to take clients from wherever they are and whatever their budget is, to spend that budget as efficiently as possible, make them as much money as possible, and then scale that budget as much as possible to ultimately add as much value as possible to their business and ultimately run the most profitable campaigns you can, given your industry, your offer, and your product.